Hi, I'm Jody from the iCasting, and I'm just going to do a little video and let you know how I became a casting director. Casting's not the easiest industry to get into because you can't go to uni and get a degree in it. It is really a lot about people you know. So maybe my story will be of some help. So I moved to London way back in the day to do a degree. I lasted one semester and then I left. And I went back the next year to do a different course, to do media studies, which seems relevant to casting. I'm not sure I've ever used it, to be honest. I did a year, I took a year off, I went back. So my university career was quite interrupted. And the main reason for that was it was the 90s and I did lots and lots and lots of partying. So I spent a lot of time in nightclubs in the 90s, not studying. And the reason I mention that is because it's very, very relevant to how I became a casting director. So used to go clubbing all the time. Some people we met in a club said, oh, come and be in this pop video. So I ended up in this pop video for the Bee Gees. Met someone on that video who was with an agency, and it was an agency called Broadcasting, which is still around now. And in the 90s, it was a super cool agency. So myself, my twin brother, we joined the agency, and then throughout the whole time of the 90s and when I was at uni, I used to also do be in pop videos, did extra work, was in TV commercials, print ads, so all those kind of things. So that was my first introduction to casting, to advertising. So through that, I kind of knew the industry. I understood about what casting was. I understood about the money, the rates and the usages and stuff like that. So that was a really good grounding for later on when I became a casting director. And the other reason I speak about doing lots of partying was because this is a creative industry and it's based on like relationships and people's personalities. And so a lot of the people that I met back then became really instrumental in my success later on. So I was doing all these adverts and stuff, and then I got a job through someone I know, which is why I said this industry is a lot about people you know, with an agency called Scallywags, which is a kids agency. So I worked there for a little bit. Then I binned that job and went off to Ibiza. So I spent a summer in Ibiza, came back, was working, doing different things, and once again, through a friend, I got a job as a receptionist at a casting studio. So I used to be on reception and I was the person that you'd see as you come in. I'd give you your forms and all the rest of that. So through that, met lots of casting directors. It was the first opportunity I had to actually take a session, even if it was just like for 5 minutes. I took the end of someone's session one day, and that kind of gave me some confidence and an interest in the career. And also through working there, I met other casting directors, ended up being an assistant for a few months. Then again, through someone I knew from Ibiza, I got another job with another casting director, and it was to do street casting. So I was out on the street finding people, and I think I found my element then. I must have been good at that because I ended up being this casting director's assistant and working for her for probably 3 or 4 years. And working there, I got to know the whole industry inside out, and taking on a lot of responsibility, taking on my own jobs. If she was on holiday and stuff, running jobs, meeting clients, all by myself. So that was a really important point for me. But even then, I didn't have the confidence to set up by myself because I was still thinking, oh, I've got to do invoicing, I've got to do growing up stuff. So when I finished working there, I went to work for someone else. Once again, this was someone I knew from clubbing in the 90s. Because this is the industry. This industry is creative industries. It's a lot of people, very social. Worked there for 6 months and eventually thought I'm going to do this for myself. And I had a great opportunity because another friend, who was a friend of a friend, I'd worked with them previously with Rankin. She was his producer. She said, set up by yourself. You can do all of our castings. And it was through her encouragement that I set up by myself. So I was 32 when I did that. So I'm glad that I took my time. I learnt my industry. I had a lot of experience. So when I set up by myself, it went really well, really quickly because I'd paid my dues. I had a lot of, not just experience in the industry, but I had life experience as well. I had a maturity and I had a network of social contacts. So I remember the day I got the phone put in to set up by myself, and I got a phone call. And she said, somebody's recommended you. And it was somebody who was a booker at Broadcasting 10 years earlier, more than 10 years earlier, who'd heard I was casting and suggested me for something. So it was all about personal contacts. And obviously at that time I knew the producer who from Ranking, who said to set up by myself. She was a friend. I knew lots of photographers. One of my first big clients was a photographer's agent who I knew, met them standing in a line to a nightclub in 1992. So all these things kind of came together. I knew a lot of model bookers, and I knew other casting directors from going to their sessions previously. So I would say some really important things for casting. Number one, get experience, and all casting directors are looking for good assistants, people who are reliable, people who understand have the right personality, are prepared to put in the hours, because it's not a 9-to-5 job often. Also, don't get excited like it's a massively exciting job. It can be really cool, but it can also be just quite a mundane job with 100 emails and 5 people to call and 27 people who haven't turned up. So it's not always exciting, and I've had assistants who have not worked out because they didn't think it was exciting enough, and it's not always. And the other thing, and the reason I've told the story the way I have, is it's really important. Personal relationships with people in this industry is really important. So don't forget the social side. You can have all the skills in the office, but you've got to get on with people. You've got to make relationships with people. And whether you do that in nightclubs like I did, or whether you do it online, which you can do it now, obviously, socializing on Instagram, on Twitter, meeting casting directors, meeting other people in the industry, because it's not just about casting. This is a very wide industry with lots of different roles. And obviously me having relationships with producers, with photographers agents, was really useful to me. So I'm not necessarily doing it my way, but that was one way that I started up. I'm glad I took my time. And when I actually got round to having the confidence and the skill level to do it, it worked really, really well. So maybe you can take some tips from that and put them towards your own experience. Good luck.